Happy June and happy Pride. Celebrating pride in all of us. All this month, Richard Skipper celebrates those that are making a difference in the LGBTQ community. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. I'm wearing red tonight. It's all about pride. Red in the pride flag symbolizes life, rejoining the human race. And I think it's so apropos this year with all of us getting out there again, reconnecting in a way that we were not able to a year at this time. I'm so glad that all of you that are here have decided to spend a little time with us tonight. And for those of you who are anxious to get out and go to your own pride celebrations, well, in my day, things didn't happen till 10 or 11 o'clock anyway. So who knows what's going on. If you were here for the first time, my show is about celebrating artists and their body of worth. What makes a great artist? How do they get from point A to point B and beyond? Well, tonight, we are going to be celebrating one of my favorite people in the business. This is a woman. I want to bring her on so she can hear everything I have to say. I have been in love with Carolyn Montgomery from the first moment that I met her. And I say this because she has always marched to her own drumbeat. Sometimes people listen. Sometimes they don't want to listen. But trust me when I tell you this, whatever she says needs to be heard. She is one of my favorite people in the business. She's a singer. She's a songwriter. She's an award winner. She's appeared with choruses around the country. She's on the board of the American Songbook Association, ASA, and she also does her own show on Sunday afternoons, celebrating those in the arts as well. And therefore, I have to be at the top of my game tonight, and I have to work extra hard. Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, here is Carolyn Montgomery.
Well, hello. Hi, Richard. That was just so lovely. I'm thinking, oh, stop. No, go on. It was really wonderful. Thank you.
You know, I always say it is so much fun to celebrate artists. I know that you feel the same way that I do, but it's even better for me when those artists that I get to celebrate are friends of mine, people that I've broken bread with, people that I'm able to say, I can call her a friend. And she is there, I will tell you this, when I pick up the phone and call her and say, I need your help on this issue. You have never said, Richard, I don't have time for you. You stop most times what you're doing, or you get back to me within a reasonable time, and we go.
That's because just like me, you don't ask unless you need it, and unless you really need it. And I know that about you. So when you say, very infrequently, by the way, hey, Carolyn, I need your ear for a second, I know that I need to respond right away.
Now, I want to start with where we are tonight. This is the last weekend. Can you believe it's the last weekend of June? We're more than halfway through this year. And this, for those of us in our community, are celebrating Pride. And I want to ask you, what does Pride mean personally to you?
I think it's evolved a lot for me over the years, and I think it's evolved as I have as a human. I came out when I was 14 years old as a bisexual woman, not realizing what a slippery slope and how fraught that would be. I'm a dinosaur. I'm very old. So that was in the 80s. And actually, the response from both the gay community and the heterosexual community was, let's just say, less than welcoming. I can still hear in my mind, there goes the confused contingent, or honey, don't you just know it's a gateway drug to being gay? All of that. I understand where people were coming from with that. I really do.
Well, can you explain where you think people are coming from with that?
Yeah, I think years and years ago, a lot of homosexual people would say to their first or second or third lover, if they were having a little trouble diving out of the closet, I'm not a lesbian. I'm not gay. I just love you. And I think many people who had the courage to come out and do it, and often be rejected by their families and some friends, really didn't trust it and thought, boy, if you can't admit that you're gay, and so they really didn't feel that bisexual existed. As a result, I felt I had to make a choice. And I wanted to make the courageous choice. And I very luckily happened to fall deeply, deeply in love with a woman who was my wife for 26 years. That marriage unfortunately ended, but it ended amicably. And during that time, I was a lesbian, darn it. I was going to be a lesbian. I was out and proud and marching and told everybody. And the problem was, I can fall deeply in love with a man or a woman, and happen to be blissfully involved with a man that I dated in high school. We're going on year number 6, and very, very happy. So turns out I am a tried and true, bona fide bisexual. And these days, I have a 17-year-old son. Ain't no thing to those kids,
Well,
So,
this reminds me, years and years ago, I performed in Provincetown. And you also spent many, many years in Provincetown. You just came back from Provincetown.
That's right.
And I remember I was this was an incredible weekend. I'm performing at the Crown and Anchor. It was Fantasy Fest.
Yes.
And for those who don't know, Fantasy Fest is cross-dressers, mostly straight, heterosexual men
That's
who
right.
love to dress in women's clothing. Entre Nous was in town.
Right.
That is the gay leather biker group. Also, AA was having their convention in Provincetown.
Yeah.
AA, of all organizations, right there in the midst of a drinking town.
We called that weekend Heather Leather Feather.
Did you really?
Yes.
But I felt like Sally Bowles in Cabaret. I would walk out every night, and there were people from all different walks of life. And I will tell you, at that moment, it was a major shift in the way that I look at people, the way that I look at life, everything, because I learned very easily that weekend that nothing is black and white.
No, it's not. And we have to, as a younger person, I saw things more in black and white. And then I made a decision, mostly with the help of my son, who knew the difference between a transsexual, a cross-dresser, and a drag queen by the time he was 8 years old. And he could speak about, not that he was exposed to it, but he would ask the question. And there was no question that he could ask that would be to which we would respond in horror. Nobody was clutching their pearls, So if he saw something, he'd say, "Why do they do that?" And if I didn't understand, I'd say, "I'm not sure, but they seem to like it."
Mm-hmm.
And as I got older, I realized that I don't have to understand everything. I don't have to understand why people prefer what they do. But I would rather be loving about it and accepting.
Mm-hmm.
And I now have 2 very close family members who are non-binary. They go by they or them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend say to my son and me, "Well, that's just grammatically incorrect. It's a singular person. It can't be they or them." And my son looked at that person and said, "If you forget your keys at a party, the host will say, 'Oh, somebody lost their keys. Do you think we should keep the keys for them?' And the reason why they say that is because they don't know the gender of the person.
Mm-hmm.
So suck it up." And I kind of went, okay.
Well, kudos to Eli, for knowing that and having the knowledge, and to bring that, that's a learning curve for someone else. I remember years ago, I was taking the bus into the city, and there were some kids, and they were using the F word, the obligatory word in our community, and they were throwing this word around like it was nothing. And I went over and I said, "Do any of you know what that word means?" And of course they didn't. It was just something they heard around. And I said, "The good news is that I'm not upset about you using that word. But there are people out there who will get upset by hearing that word.
Yeah,
and
sure.
you never know how they're going to react to it.
Yep.
Well, I said in my introduction to you, and I truly mean this, Carolyn, and perhaps it's the facade that you present to the world. I don't know what you're like behind closed doors, but you give this very strong persona. You seem to be very solid in your skin, who you are, what you are, where you are, how you are, no matter how you want to define it. And I want to ask you, am I reading that correctly? Or I'm sure we all have our moments. And where does that come from for you?
I had parents who believed in me. That's huge. They didn't always agree with me. And let me tell you, with the bisexual thing, my mother said, well, if you can make a choice, why wouldn't you make the easy one? Which is a very interesting question. And my response to that was, Mom, I fell in love, and I happened to fall in love with a woman. So I think I have to, and both of my parents are gone. And I
was lucky enough to meet them because
that's right.
If I remember correctly, you had your actual wedding in France.
That's right.
But you had a celebration inviting you at St. John the Divine. And thank you for including Danny and myself for that.
Oh, it was a fun night. And it was, we had been together for about 12 years by the time we got married. And we also got married because it wasn't legal when we got married. And we did get legally married in 2010, the moment they said that, that we could. But we did have a wedding because my niece turned to me and said, why don't you get married? Do you have wedding pictures? And we both kind of looked at each other and said, because we chose France as a venue to get married, we only had 25 people at the wedding. Mm-hmm. And then we had 180 people at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. And I'm so glad you're there. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, I want to ask you now, Danny and I were one of the first 100 couples to get married.
Wow.
When it became legal to do so here in New York. Wow. And our 10th anniversary of being married, we've been together 31 years, is next month. Yeah. For those who don't understand, those who may be watching or either tonight live or at some other point, can you explain from your point of view, your advantage point, why you think, vantage point, not advantage point, why you think that, or why it is important that marriage should be the law of the land for anyone who wants to get married?
It's a question of civil rights. I understand, and a lot of my particularly gay male friends, and boy, do I have a lot of them. They are my heart and my posse. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, especially the ones who really, really lived through, as you did, AIDS and dealing with medical, with the whole health care. If people had jumped on AIDS the way they jumped on COVID, can you imagine? We would have had those antiretrovirals by 1987 or earlier. I'm mad about that. I am angry. And I do think that there are people that object to the heteronormative desire, to the white picket fence, the children. But you know something? That is not heteronormative. That is everybody's right. I wanted to have a baby too. That's not heteronormative. That's a maternal desire. I wanted to know that legally I was bound to my partner and that we would have the same rights. And no, it wasn't okay to say, well, don't call it marriage then. Call it a civil union. No. Equal is equal is equal. And we're dealing with the same thing with Black Lives Matter. We're dealing equal is equal is equal. And you have to take a hard line on that all the way through. And we have to fight for everybody's rights.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about the past year and a half that we've gone through. COVID, of course, has affected all of us. What is the biggest impact that the year has had on you, beyond the obvious things that we've all gone through, in terms of how this past year and a half has changed you, either as an artist, the way that you do business, as I mentioned earlier. You're also on the board for the American Songbook Association, and also as a human being. How has this past year and a half impacted you?
Because it's unprecedented, COVID was just an unprecedented moment, wasn't it? I mean, we were all fine, and then all of a sudden we weren't. I mean, we started hearing about this in January of 2020, and our entire worlds shut down by the 15th of March. What this did for me was it prioritized my life.
Mm-hmm.
As silly as it sounds, I was a single mother, solely financially responsible for a dependent child, and I could not get sick. That was a thing. And I watched a very, very good friend of mine and a board member, Bill Sensenbrenner. He was taken by this disease. He's a healthy guy. He was 66, slender, fit, filled with life. He called me 3 times a week and saying, "You are my sunshine." COVID took him in 3 weeks from hospital.
February 11th, my birthday.
That took the wind out of my sails, and I was so careful. The most important thing was staying alive, staying financially afloat, which by the time my in-person teaching, and I had 2 hotel gigs every week. I was singing like crazy. That shut down. I realized I had no income. By the end of March, I was teaching full schedule of virtual culinary and cocktail classes. That was great. I put that in place. And honestly, the lockdown was hard. I missed my friends, but I was so focused on my son and so focused on staying healthy. I lost weight. I got in shape. And I realized a lot of my petty grievances, a lot of the things that I've been feeling jealous about or guilty about. I did a lot of meditating, a lot of thinking, a lot of crying and mourning. And I'm coming out of this knowing what I want to pursue and what I want to focus on. And knowing that, as you have said many times in your posts and just out loud, I tell my friends that I love them. I tell them that I love them, and especially my friends that are living alone.
Yesterday we all got a very harsh reminder with what happened in Miami with this building collapsing. As I was saying to a friend of mine last night, we all put our heads down on our pillows every night, taking for granted everything.
Right.
More and more people that I know, I'm one of them, we are doing our gratitude list and be grateful for what we have in our lives, what we don't have in our lives, and what we want in our lives and what we don't want in our lives.
Yeah.
Well,
and my boyfriend and I haven't seen each other in 9 months. He's in Paris raising 2 boys, one on each side of Eli age-wise. And we get to see each other in July, and we're spending the whole summer together. But boy, it really puts things into focus, because neither of us the entire time ever considered that this was going to be a hindrance to our relationship or that it was going to break up. And about 3 months ago, Bill said, "Well, I guess you're stuck with me." And I said, "And I guess you're stuck with me too." You know, this has been an interesting time.
Well, I want to talk about another aspect that has happened over the past year, and that is a real shift in the consciousness of America. Black Lives Matter, Me Too, not allowing abusive people to be in power in our industry anymore.
Yeah.
Do you feel that these things would have come to the forefront the way they did if COVID had not happened this past year?
I think we were headed there because of the Me Too movement. I think COVID sort of sealed the deal and pushed it forward. I think that a lot of oppressed people and look, I'm in love with a white, straight male. However, this world is run by white, straight, rich males. And there are many good ones out there. There are many that need to adapt and adjust to the fact that they have been given certain things. They are entitled to certain things that the rest of us have been refused.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are kicking and screaming and really acting badly, like cornered dogs in a corner, just fighting and yapping and saying, no, Mitch McConnell, I'm just going to say no to everything that's put on the floor. What is that? That's completely unreasonable, and that's fear. They're all so scared, and they're scared.
Thank you. That's the bottom line. There are two emotions that we can operate from, hope or fear.
Yeah.
And so many people are operating from this. I want to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with ASA, the American Songbook Association. Because, first of all, great work that Frank Dane, yourself, and Kittredge, who you interviewed on Sunday. Great show, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Great show. I want to say something. Kudos to Dawn Duro, because I had no idea what she had created for herself and others over the past year, and you brought that to light.
She has been spinning around like a top. The girl has been working. Yeah.
Yes. You started doing a platform such as this. You're also on StreamYard. And was this something that you were thinking about going in this direction, or did COVID push you in this direction?
COVID. I am going to have my own radio station out of New Rochelle when COVID is truly released, probably after the 1st of next year.
Great.
Which I'm excited about. And I had already been putting that together. Then COVID hit, and I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to take a train to the station. I didn't want to do any of that. I knew I wanted to interview artists, and I knew I wanted to keep this music playing. So it will be the official radio station of the American Songbook Association. But I had not thought about starting up this platform, the Sunday Sessions series. And you really helped me navigate StreamYard. You were my tutorial. You got on there, you made me stay on there and learn it. And I am forever grateful. It changed my life.
Well, for those who don't know, there's some people out there who think ASA, American Songbook Association, is Cabaret Scenes magazine.
Right.
And the buck stops there. No. Can you tell everyone what the mission statement is of the ASA and the work that you're all doing in terms of keeping the American Songbook alive and the work that you're doing beyond that?
Absolutely. So the American Songbook Association is only 3 years old. We incorporated taking on Cabaret Scenes, which is 26 years old, as our official magazine. Our entire purpose is to promote and to preserve and promote the great American musical legacies, particularly jazz, musical theater, and the great American songbook, which our executive board all agree is still being written. However, there are great songs, mostly from early American musicals between about, 1930 to about 1965, that we are really focused on. And there are several ways that we do this. One is we have different concerts through the year. We give the Margaret Whiting Award, and now we're giving the Pomeranz Gift, which is going to it's going to be a cash gift to a performer that we designate or award to let them produce a show, because producing a cabaret show is expensive. And as I said, we have the Margaret Whiting Award. So those are two different concerts. We also have a wonderful gala. This year it's going to be at the Kaufman Center. I think he's already said yes, so I can tell you here, you're the first person, this is an exclusive.
Right here.
That we are celebrating Stephen Schwartz.
Wonderful.
I know. I'm so excited with Scott Coulter as our director.
Who else but Scott Coulter?
How about that? Exactly. He's so wonderful, and we're so lucky that they are both free. Stephen Schwartz is making films, and he's just incredibly busy. So this is exciting news. We have the magazine that comes out every other month. We have an instrument pantry where we take old, gently used instruments. We, if we need to refurbish them and give them to kids in need. And we've given out violins, cello, violas, trumpets, guitars. It's wonderful.
That's great.
We go into schools in all 5 boroughs. We've already taught over 3,000 children between the ages of pre-K and high school. And I bring great performers in there, Aisha DeHaas, and just so many wonderful people that come in and teach jazz, musical theater, and the American Songbook. So that's what we're doing.
So when ASA was formulated, were you on the board from the very beginning?
I was. Yep.
And what was the evolution of that coming about?
So it was really cabaret scenes wanting to do more and wanting to get into the education game. And I approached Frank Dane and Peter Levy, who is a publisher of the magazine, and said, this is what I'd like to do. And they pretty much gave me free rein to develop the program. And I did it. Eric Eve Garcia was my music director, and he came into the schools with me. And I got a lot of people to they didn't donate their time, actually. We proudly pay our singers and musicians for appearing in the public schools. It's not a huge amount, but it does make it worth their time. And we take them to and from in an Uber to the schools, whether it's in Staten Island or Brooklyn. We've been in the far Rockaways singing Porter and Gershwin and Arlen, and it's been wonderful.
What is the biggest thing that surprised you about where you are now with ASA opposed to where you were 3 years ago?
How much we've gotten done. I'm really blown away that we had a Johnny Mercer concert with 9 children who had not only not heard this music, they'd heard nothing but hip hop and rap. We had them singing I'm Old Fashioned and accentuate the positive. And it was so heart-wrenchingly beautiful. And Eric and I interviewed these kids. They were 12 and 13 years old. Talk about a difficult age. We interviewed them and we gave them tunes that spoke to them. And one little girl listened to I'm Old Fashioned and her eyes got really huge. And she said, it's like you're reading my mind.
That's great.
So wonderful. Yeah.
Now, as I mentioned, you are a singer and a songwriter yourself, a multi-award winner. But what is it about the genre of cabaret that attracts you and that pulls you towards it?
I love the fact that I can switch gears. I can sing a ballad, and then I can do some real comedy. I love comedy. I love making them laugh. And I like the fact that you can structure a show that truly speaks to who I am. And that evolves and changes too. When I first started in cabaret, I had an idea of who I was, and I wasn't tremendously successful because I was going out on stage and I was being very grand. I decided I was going to be grand, and I watched myself on video. And a dear, dear friend who became my music director said, why is it that when you're off stage, you're fascinating? I love you. You're funny. When you're on stage, I couldn't give a crap.
Good for him or her.
Oh, I think that we must do this with the people that we love in cabaret. We must be honest. Mm-hmm. It's very important. You grow as a human being. I slammed out of his apartment. I was mad. You know who it was? It was Rick Leonard. Wow. And next year we went on to win the MAC, the Bistro, and the Nightlife Award because I got over myself. And I started being Carolyn on stage. And boom. It's not that Carolyn is so great. It's that anybody being authentic on stage is beautiful and deep and meaningful. So when we saw, the first show I ever saw in New York City was in 1997, Sally Mays in the Story Hour. And I could not move after the show. I was completely paralyzed in awe at how, and that was it. I was, and it took me a while to get there, but I didn't get to her level. That's not what I'm saying. I just got to a place where I was being myself on stage.
Well, when you were a young girl, what were your aspirations? What were your goals? Where did you want to see yourself as an adult?
It changed. I often saw myself as a trial lawyer, defending people that needed to be defended. Maybe that's
your attorney calling now. If that's an agent, it's for one of us.
Stephen Sondheim.
It could be.
Take
the call. Let's see who it is. Bring him on the air. They should be watching tonight.
Exactly. I had to trial and error. I'm a late bloomer in absolutely everything. I mean, I didn't get married until I was 35. I didn't have a baby till I was 40, so you can do the math. Everybody can know how old I am. I don't hide that either. But I went off to music school, and I sang with a jazz trio for 2 years, and I loved it. Not quite it. I traveled with regional theater. Back then, I was a pageant queen, so I played every Sandy in Grease and every Kim in Bye Bye Birdie that you can, and that wasn't it. I loved it, but by the 8th show in a week, I was doing my laundry list in my head. It was not super engaging. I traveled with a pop band called Quick Step. I didn't love that. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I moved to Provincetown to study with Richard Weinstock, who had moved from New York City.
Yes.
And he said to me, I can teach you a lot. You can be wonderful. My first year working in his club, the 3 headliners were Sharon McKnight, Jay Rogers, and Ann Hampton Calloway. So I got to see them 6 nights a week. And he worked with me, and he said, I need you to stay here through the winter because I'm sick. And I don't know how long I've got, and I don't know if next summer is going to pan out. We did have one more summer, and he died the following year.
I'm sorry.
I met Lee, who was his best friend, who became my wife. And that was a wonderful thing, and lived in Provincetown for 5 years and really cut my teeth learning from the best drag, the best entertainers ever. So
Well, let me ask you this. I remember the first time I went to Provincetown. I got off the bus. I was on Commercial Street in the middle of Carnival. I stepped up into that world. I was in my late 20s.
yeah.
Wow, where am I? What is this? And I dreamed of performing in Provincetown. And there's something, Danny and I are taking a real vacation. I'm disconnecting from everything for a week just to go away next month. And I can't wait.
You're going to be there when I'm there. I'm excited. I'm going
to be there.
I'm going to be in Wellfleet. My boyfriend has a house in Wellfleet. We're in Provincetown all the time. And I'm going to be there from July 11th to September 3rd.
Well, let's do dinner one night.
Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
But we have not done anything like this in years, but I dreamed of being in Provincetown and performing there.
Yeah.
And there's something that, with all due respect to our cabaret colleagues in New York, they could take a lesson from Provincetown, because there's such a feeling of support and welcome. At least that was my experience.
Yep.
And so many of the people that I've come to know and love over the years, I learned, from Provincetown. It's a summer place. You have to work hard.
That's
you have to work really hard to get that audience.
Yeah.
But it's something. What is it about Provincetown for you that resonates so deeply?
When I moved there, I was 26, and my dating life had been a little bit boy, girl. I was out and honest with everybody I dated, but felt a little different. I didn't know anybody like me. When I got to Provincetown, it's not that I knew I met people like me. I met people, mostly gay or straight people. But the town felt freer. It felt less judgmental. I felt like I was home, and I felt like I was accepted for the first time, really, for who I was. I had gotten a very hard edge, which I think I still have, which was a defense mechanism. And I felt really free and joyful. And isn't it strange that I arrived when boys were dropping like flies? And Lee and I attended as many as 9 or 10 funerals a month. And we took care of our boyfriends who died. We were there when the antiretrovirals started coming out. And it was joyful because some people were really responding. I mean, they went from being skeletal to being super buff because there was a lot of human growth hormone in those antiretrovirals. But some of them, it didn't work for them. And that was just heartbreaking.
Well, you were right there in the middle of all this going on, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Of course, we know in New York how it really affected and changed the timbre and the feel of living in New York at that time. Beyond the obvious, we know about the loss and everything. what are some of the big impacts that you feel that had on Provincetown as a town? Because it really is a small town. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very congested.
Well, yeah, in the summertime, it's unbelievable. It goes from a town of 3,000 people to a town of 100,000 people.
And also, there are no secrets in Provincetown. Everybody knows what everyone's doing, and everyone's thinking about but what are some of the biggest impacts that you feel that time frame had on the shape of what Provincetown has become today?
It is different, obviously, and I don't want to be one of those old fuddy-duddies that says it sure is different than in my day. In some ways, it's lovely. Provincetown has had an influx of money. There have been so all the business owners were men, except for a few galleries when I got there, and the occasional restaurant, like Donna still owns Front Street, and there are women that own restaurants, but there weren't many. And then, honestly, all the men died. That Richard, Franco, they all died. And the town, for a short period of time, had an influx of women. And that added an entirely different tenor to the town. You saw a lot more golf shops. And then there has been a wonderful balancing act. So it is a very mixed bag. I think the town has gone from being extremely, like 90% gay when I was there, to being a little bit more mixed. The town has a wonderful a mix of older and younger people. It's not all 20-somethings. There are a lot of people in their 70s and 80s living in Provincetown. You have to want to live there. You have to be okay paying a lot of money to live in a small space. You have to work your butt off to pay for that small space. So you have to want what it offers, which is huge cultural. There are 117 galleries, art galleries, in 3 miles of space in Provincetown, Massachusetts. There are a national seashore, beautiful dune lands. There's really good drag and a really fabulous sexual ambiguity. And there's good food and wonderful people.
I want to ask you something, going back to something that you said earlier, and I hope you don't mind my going there. But you have dated both men and women. And I know that, and you mentioned very early on in our conversation, that because of that, there were some people who said, oh, come on, make up your mind, whatever. I also find that a lot of the, forgive me everyone, a lot of the homophobia that we experience is within our own community.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I was going to ask, I mean, being in the position that you've been in, was that ever an issue as far as the people that you were dating, for those very reasons as well?
Sure. I mean, honestly, I being very careful actually, but I had people that were, we would go out for a second date and I would say, well, my ex-boyfriend had it. We would be talking about horses. My ex-boyfriend had a horse. Wait, what? Oh, you do that? And I could see now fear was a big piece of that. And I would say that almost every gay person, lesbian or gay man, has had somebody who said, I'm not gay, I just love you, hurt them quite badly. And so I get it. It was a defense mechanism. But in my case, it's really how I was built. And if I felt that I was going to have to do a whole lot of convincing, I would say, I think we're done here. I'm not going to spend a year trying to convince you that I'm going to be faithful to you. It's not like if you're bisexual and you go for 5 years dating somebody, you say, geez, it's been a long time since I've had a man. That's not how it works. It's not like I get a deficit or like a vitamin deficiency if I don't get a certain gender in my life. It's really the person that I'm with. And like anything else, a good marriage is a good marriage. A good relationship is a good relationship. And for me, it has almost nothing to do with the gender of the person that I'm seeing.
And going, back to the performing aspect of your life, a lot of your early training, shaping, and everything happened while you were in Provincetown.
Uh-huh.
When did you know that you were ready to hit the boards in New York? And perhaps you didn't know, based on what you told us about the way you presented yourself
Yeah.
when you first went into the world of cabaret. Obviously, you had someone who loved you enough to set you, for lack of a better term, straight.
Yeah.
But that person put you on the right path. The shows that you do on Sunday afternoons, you deal with a lot of people. And one of the things I want to ask you is perhaps something that you have asked some of the people that you've interviewed yourself, and that is, who are those mentors? Who are those people who have shaped you as the artist that you are today?
Wow, there have been a lot. I mean, starting with just artists that I love. I mean, I think that I could have a Joni Mitchell lyric off with any person on the planet and I wouldn't lose. And I can think in my head, there's some friends of mine that are good, because I listened to Joni Mitchell all the time when I was younger. She was my muse. But honestly, people that have been inspired me on stage, specifically in cabaret, I mentioned Sally Mays, Jay Rogers, who is a really, really good friend.
When I did my one-man show, he was the only person that I knew who would be the right person to direct me, with all due respect to everyone else. But he brought out what I needed. And I bow to you, Jay Rogers.
Yeah, his taste is impeccable. And he knows what works and what doesn't work. And he also happens to be, I would never appear on stage with him. I mean, you can't, it's like appearing with a puppy or a baby. You don't do it. You don't appear with Jay Rogers because people just want to look at him. And he's not upstaging anybody. He's just standing there. He's just a star. I will honestly say, in terms of singing and arrangements, Margaret Whiting had a huge effect on me musically. Mm-hmm. Tex Arnold, when he played for her, his arrangements were otherworldly. John Weber, who was my music director for Visible Phoenix, which is a show I did, he was a huge inspiration to me, because John is as authentic and brilliant and about the music as you could possibly get. So how's that for some people?
No, those are great names to throw out there, because and every single one of them I totally appreciate and respect so much on so many levels.
Yeah. I think about actors like Marion Seldes. I mean, there's so many people that I see. Aren't we lucky? We live in a place where we can get tickets to a Broadway show, and see three tall women and just, I've seen some beautiful things that have just inspired me so much.
It is so funny that you mentioned this. Just 2 nights ago, Jordan Baker, who was in the original Three Tall Women, is a very good friend of ours. She was here for dinner. You have to come for dinner one night and hear her version of the things going on behind the scenes.
I would love that.
Oh my God. Great stories. Wonderful time with her. Just, I love her so much. And respectful of everybody. Yeah. Just love her.
Yeah.
I want to ask you also, you and I both have been around a long time.
Oh,
a lot of changes, both good and bad. I want to talk about some of the changes that you've seen in the cabaret community and the cabaret world. And I'm going specifically to that community because of Cabaret Scenes and ASA. What are some of the things that you've seen that you absolutely love that have changed in the business? And what are the things that you still have a hard time embracing? And what are some of the things that you truly miss from those early days that I refer to as the hunger years?
Wow, that's a big question. Okay, so some of the things that I absolutely love that are going on right now is I love the number of people who are coming in to do their version of a cabaret show, meaning we have Broadway stars, we have television stars. They don't always get it. A star of cabaret is a very, very unique thing, and it's a person who understands a small and intimate space. There are performers like Bette Midler who get it. She can play a small room, and she can make Radio City Music Hall seem like a small room.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate, I think, star in cabaret. So I love the fact that it's an eclectic group, and that it takes all kinds, and that in cabaret you can have somebody. Eric Michael Gillette does a wonderful benefit for the Benjamin House, and he has a woman who sang Mr. Grinch and played the oboe. She looked like dessert in an evening dress. She was absolutely stunning, and I thought, that's cabaret. If you don't know where your act fits, and it is extremely authentic and good, if it's good, bring it, because people are going to love it.
And wasn't that done in North Carolina?
Yes. Yeah. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, she's playing bassoon. She was playing the bassoon. I'm sorry, not the oboe. Bassoon, oboe. Come on. It was so incredible. So the thing that I absolutely love about cabaret is that the thing that I'm not so crazy about in cabaret is exactly that. Everybody feels entitled to get up for their hour and do their show. It is hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
In this genre. Now, you can go see a bad show on Broadway, and you can see a good show on Broadway. But typically there's a reason why those shows got to Broadway, right? And even if you don't like the subject matter, you're not crazy about the music, it is arranged, polished music. There's cabaret that's so great, and things that I find great, you might not. It's very subjective. But everybody thinks they can do it. And I'm here to tell you that the most seasoned Broadway performer may do a really bad cabaret show.
That's true.
Because they have no idea what they're doing with these people. They're not connecting at all. They're singing and you think, wow, you should be on a Broadway stage.
Well, Carolyn, you and I came along around the same time, give or take a year or so. And when I first did my show at Don't Tell Mama, I auditioned to play that room.
Right.
And, and this idea that, let's face it, for those who don't know, New York, for the most part, with very few exceptions, is a pay-to-play town. And if you can pay the room charge and you can say that you can bring in an audience, and when nobody can guarantee that, I don't care who you are, you get booked. And I do think that because of that, and yes, everybody needs a place to start out, I think that it's really hurt the industry.
Yeah. So when I started in cabaret, the people that were playing at 88's, because that was my first job, Irv Rabel liked me. And he gave me a job as a happy hour bartender at 88's. And the reason why that was so great is A, I made some money, but B, I got to see all the shows for free. You know the people that were playing there then? Natalie Gamsu, Sally Mays, Karen Mason. It was just after
Sharon McKnight.
Sharon McKnight. It was just after Nancy Lamott had. Annie Hughes. There were all sorts of people. Philip Officer, got to bring the boys in there too. And there was a level, and 88's was that club where if you were playing 88's and then the Firebird after that, when I got my first 6-week booking at the Firebird, that was a day I felt that I had bumped up a level. So, I just don't want to sound snotty about this because I don't feel snotty about it. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I don't feel snotty about it. Yeah, there is room for everyone to have their moment. And if you can do what we call a vanity production and bring in a bunch of your friends and get the club some money and the club gets a bunch of drink, there should be room for that. But I just wish that there were sort of tiers in cabaret, TIERS.
I know.
Tiers in cabaret for all of us, to which we can aspire and climb. And the way that we do that is from learning how to build an audience, learning how to perform and entertain, learning from our music directors, and bumping up to the next level because we have earned it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of where I stand. And I so don't want that to sound, as I said, bitchy or rude. I just think that, there's community theater and there's regional theater and there's Broadway or the West End.
Mm-hmm.
There should be tiers for cabaret as well.
I totally agree. And you and I have had many discussions on this topic. But I want to ask you, in this business, what really brings you down in this business? It's a tough business for anyone out there who's watching. And what is without naming names, because I'm all about celebrating, without naming names or a situation that would give it away, what would you consider was the lowest point that you had in this business? And what was it that motivated you to walk through that?
Oh my. I'm trying to think of it. I do have to say that I have not been a consistent cabaret performer. So when I began feeling that I was performing for the wrong reasons, meaning to get attention for an award or for any of those reasons, I would stop. And, I was gone for 10 years, came back, did Visible Phoenix for 2 years. I traveled to 22 cities. I did 14 performances at the Beachman. I got a New York Times review, a Wall Street Journal review, and I got nominated for a MAC award. I did not win the MAC award.
Well, you mentioned the other day in your interview, and I want to stop you because you did mention this. You credit Eric Michael Gillette for a lot of that.
Yeah, I do. He was so encouraging, and he was also tough on me. He made me bump up to another level, and he made me really explore where I was going emotionally with some of the tunes. I had a 5-piece band. They were all just tremendous, and I loved it. But the moment that I felt that my focus wasn't on the music and the performance, and I just sort of stopped doing it. I would show up at Salon when Tanya asked me, and I would sing at the occasional, but I don't want to show up for any other reason except to entertain the people with what I have to offer. If I am showing up for any other reason, then I won't do it. And that's probably why in the cabaret firmament, I'm on a relatively low rung, and that's okay. I'm really happy with where I've gotten with it. I'm just not out there a lot,
I do want to say something about that show. You sang "If Ever I Would Leave You," and I heard those lyrics for the first time in a way that I had never heard it before. Where did it come from? Was that something that you had a light bulb go off one night? It was what you made that song truly a Carolyn Montgomery song.
Well, you know what? It's funny. John and I were messing around with it. And I said, I want to do it like Frankie Valli. If ever I would leave you, shabab, 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 And then I was singing it at home while I was making dinner. And it is beautiful. But honestly, it's a little bit condescending to a woman, right? Or would I leave you playing merrily in the snow? And I thought, it sounds like he's singing to a child. It's infantile. And then I went and I looked at Eli, who was sitting there coloring at the table, and I started putting the lyrics, if ever I would leave you, it wouldn't be. And then at the end, and every time I sang it that Eli came to the show, because he was 10, he'd put his head down on the table. And I said, sweetie, is it embarrassing for you that I do this? And he said, no, it just makes me sad. And I said, well, I'm singing about the fact that I will never, ever leave you. And he said, oh. And then he was fine after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
We're going to play a little game here. I've got some questions that are sent to me. These are questions that are not specific to you.
Okay.
They're just general questions, and I drew a few tonight.
Okay.
And, so what was the best experience that you've ever had in front of an audience?
I'm going to do a recent one, and it's a romantic one. I hope you please. I was in Visible Phoenix, and it was the third show, and I was very, very much in my body. I really felt I would, and I looked down, and there was friends. Natalie Douglas was there, Gabrielle Stravelli was there, Aisha was there. And I look up, and in the back, I realized that Bill had flown over from Paris, my boyfriend.
Wow.
And he had shown up. And he was standing there at the beginning of the show, and I looked around. The room was absolutely packed full of people. I knew that the Times was there. And I was 100% comfortable and plugged in. I have never felt, except for when I first held my son, my purpose was clearer. I was supposed to be there. It was a grand night for singing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What one thing, I love this question, what one thing would you most like to steal if you could get away with it?
If I could get away with it, what would I most like to steal? Let's see. The things that I love so much are usually places, either the beach or the mountains. So if I could steal anything, I would steal a little thatch roof cabin in Wellfleet on Williams Pond. It's 2 bedrooms. I Zillowed it. It's well over $2 million.
Wow.
I would, and it's on an acre, and it has a tree with a swing and a thatched roof. And to me, it is the ultimate in beauty and coziness and comfort and seclusion. Believe it or not, as gregarious as I am, I love my quiet alone time.
Now, my next question, have you ever stolen anything?
Yes. I have 3 older sisters. And usually I stole my sister Eliza's handwriting. We have identical handwriting. And hers is really cool and rounded. And I practiced it, and I stole that from her. And to this day, her kids just marvel because they see, I write thank you notes. It's what I do. And they see my handwriting and they think she's written something to herself.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's see. In which part of your day does time go the slowest? And at what time of day does the time go the fastest?
My mornings go, the slowest is at night when I know I should put myself into bed. Sleep has become very important to me because for the first time during COVID, sleep became elusive. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get more than 2 hours of sleep without waking up. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't to pee, it was just waking up. And if you don't get REM sleep, it really messes up your body. And mine was pure anxiety. So at night, I know I should be going to bed, and there's still a to-do list on the table. And it moves slowly because I sit there for a good hour wondering if I should do it or go to bed. That's wow. Crazy.
That's great.
The fastest time is the morning. I have morning rituals, and I love them all. That include meditation, exercise, a little bit of yoga. And so my mornings speed by, and I reward myself with a cup of coffee when it's all done. I walk my dogs, which I love. And then during the school year, I get Eli up, and while he's showering, I have my cup of coffee, and I love it.
Now, you can take the 5th on the next question if you want to.
Okay.
Which sibling is or was favored most by your parents?
So I'm this is awful. My brother was the only boy. Okay. And so
someone agrees.
yeah, that's Chipmunk, my 17-year-old terrier. And I was the baby. So I would say that the 2 of us had the most just sort of unconditional, unfair amount of attention and love.
Okay. And what is...
Chippy.
If you want to share this with us again, what is the worst emotional pain that you feel that you've ever suffered?
My sister Katie was killed in a car accident when I was 19.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's right on the top of my head. I know what it is, and so that was definitely it.
And this is my last question, but don't go anywhere right away. Whose thoughts would you most like to read? I love that.
Whose thoughts? Rilke or my friend Claudia Morrow, who is the most amazing poet. And she posts things, and they seem to be something that comes right out of my soul. She is a wordsmith. So those two.
Now, I'm going to lie. I've got one last question for you. What's next for you in the public eye that we can see? When's your next interview?
Okay, so there's somebody that I've asked, simply checking her schedule, so I can't tell you who she is, but she's wonderful. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually working on a show. And all I will tell you is that Sally Mays is directing it. Yeah, and after the first of the year, I'm intending to tour it, and I cannot wait to be singing again.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I thank you for being here. I wasn't just lip service at the beginning. You are truly one of my favorite people. So thank you for spending a Friday night with me. Danny is off in Buffalo with his brother.
Oh, please give him my love. And that little teeny, adorable, who do you have?
Benny.
God, he's so
I'm glad that you helped me get a little bit through the evening tonight. Yeah. I want to thank all of you for being here. I'm sure that I can speak for Carolyn when I say this. I don't take for granted that you could have been anywhere else for the last hour. And the fact that you chose to spend it with us means a lot to me. If you are here for the first time, I can't stress this enough. Please subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates on YouTube. My shows are all about celebrating, and I want to celebrate you and everybody. So please, and let me know who you would like to see celebrated on the show, because I love getting ideas, and I'm learning a lot about a lot of people that I don't know about. So bring them to my attention. If you liked tonight's show, and I hope you did, hit the like button, leave a comment, because that helps in terms of the ranking of this video. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the 7th name that pops up, reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call to let that person know what they mean to you. Because, as we said earlier, none of us are promised tomorrow. Take the time to let those that you love know that you love them. And a dear friend of ours, David Friedman, says that we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat.
That's right.
You never know what someone is going through right now. And I will add to that, if you're going to be out on a boat, make sure that you bring a skipper along. Now, before I'm going to sign off, I am going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to expound upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had, or just any message that you want to put out to everyone who's watching right now. I love you, Carolyn. Happy Pride. And I'm serious. I want to have dinner in Provincetown with you.
I love you too. And I'm so grateful to be on here. Thank you, Richard. So when Richard said that pride is for everyone, I agree. I actually had not prepared anything to say, but whenever I am asked to speak to a large group of people, my message is simply that everyone has something of which they should be abundantly proud. There is no shame in having some piece of yourself, some part of yourself, of which you are very, very proud. And as Marianne Williams says, who are you to not shine your light? You have to shine your light into the world. Do something incredibly special, not necessarily for you. If you do something to change somebody else's life, your purpose is realized. So happy Pride, whatever that means to you. Be proud of yourself. Be proud to be proud, and help others feel proud of themselves too, because we all have something to give, and we can all love each other. Thanks so much. Thank you, Richard.